And David and I are having great fun speaking to Ashish Panjabi, the COO of Jacky's, this morning about his outlook for 2011 in the electronics retail market. Basically, we're just getting to talk about gadgets, which keeps us happy. And we have had one listener text in to ask you a question, Ashish, that I was wondering about a few minutes ago when we were talking about the smartphone market. You said that it's now platforms rather than manufacturers that people are buying. So people are iPhone users because of the platform, or they're looking at being Android users, or they're Windows 7 users. Which do you think is going to be the winner? Which is the most popular at the moment, and which do you think in 2011 will become the most dominant? Will it be the BlackBerry platform, the Windows 7, the Android, or the iPhone platform?
It's difficult to say. It's very personal when it comes down to it, and it depends what you're using it for. For a business user, definitely the BlackBerry is still the product of choice. It is, from a communications point of view, probably the strongest messaging device that there is out there as a communication device. But the fun phone has been the Apple devices. Ask anyone with an iPhone, and then they're probably hiding away a couple of games in there, whether they want to admit it or not. So you do have that. But the Android and the Windows Phone 7 is I think, what the enthusiasts are going for, what the technology enthusiasts are picking up, and you're going to see a lot more of them with them.
Interesting, my daughter is 15 and she much prefers the BlackBerry rather than the iPhone, precisely because of BlackBerry Messenger.
Yeah.
So she can keep in contact with all her friends. But we were talking about the apps as being the thing that makes the real difference, and of course BlackBerry Messenger is an app in itself. But one of your predictions is for voice over IP, and you say that 2011 could be the year that it actually comes into effect. But it's already in some phones. It's already built in some phones. So are we already there? And is 2011 the year that it becomes more mainstream?
Well, it has to be there officially. It is there. We know it. You can download it from the Apple iTunes store onto your iPhone at the moment, but it isn't officially endorsed. And when it is out there officially, and you can have it on your laptops, and you can start video conferencing, and you can start doing a lot more, it is going to get a lot more interesting out here. Apart from the fact that you can probably save on call costs, you start to use it for a lot more things at the moment. We're in a market where Apple doesn't have FaceTime as well. So things like Skype on an iPhone with video conferencing, which is what they're rumored to be launching in 2011 at the CES show in Las Vegas, could be things that start to change the game over here, the way as we see it.
So at the moment, it's only Apple where you can have access to this, or is it all phones that you can access?
Well, I believe there is going to be an Android version of Skype coming out.
But Apple is the only place at the moment. Does that give them advantage? Is it whoever gets there first and builds it in first will have the advantage for 2011? Is it that much of a killer app that will really make the difference?
Well, this is the thing. I mean, you've got the app developers and you've got the app stores. It's a matter of which app store the developer wants to build for first. Today, Apple, being the largest in terms of a base, has got the most apps on their app store, but you are seeing the Google Android app store develop now. They're talking about 200,000 apps on there. Microsoft has said we're going gung-ho, and Microsoft has got a very strong developer community which supports them traditionally. So you could start to see a lot more, and especially with the established and the bigger brands, they would probably have apps on all of the platforms very quickly.
Well, of course, Skype not officially here in this marketplace yet. Is that something that you would expect or hope to see change over this year?
We hope to see it. I mean, the TRA has been talking about it, and they've been saying voice over IP can come in if you come in through one of the local providers. Skype have said we are talking to the local providers, but 2010 came and went, and we didn't see anything happen yet. We do hope 2011 is the year that someone finally reaches an agreement with Skype or someone else similar to them, and we start to see them over here as well. I mean, there are a lot of other benefits of voice over IP. If you just take it from a business point of view, the Middle East, Dubai has been the center of the Middle East. The UAE has been the center of the Middle East. You have a lot of companies headquartered over here doing business across the region. Once you've got the voice over IP connectivity in, you could have your call center set up over here. I mean, there's so many other applications you could think of that start happening over here that actually give you a lot more advantage.
Well, we just had an SMS come in. Someone's asking about the Android market and whether that's the operator's fault or whether it's a technology thing or whether it's about Google themselves not
I
opening
think
up.
it's, from what I understand, it's from Google at the moment, more than the manufacturers or the telecom regulator here.
Yeah.
Well, let's look at the tablet market. It's been obviously one of the runaway successes of 2010. Is it still just about the iPad, or are some of the other manufacturers, I mean, I know you mentioned the Samsung Galaxy earlier, beginning to take a notable chunk of that market?
Well, they're starting to make an inroad. They are starting to create an awareness, and people who've had the iPad love it, but there are a lot of people who've had the iPad and have finally said, I miss a couple of things on it. It's a little heavy to carry around, to read on. You miss the fact that you don't have the camera on it. It's not as easy to read in the car when you've got the sun beaming down on it. So there are things that are there. And we are starting to see a lot more manufacturers going to jump into the bandwagon in 2011. I've personally seen the prototypes from Acer. We've seen Dell already talking about it. HP are going to be talking about it. BlackBerry said they're going to have the playbook out next year. So there are going to be a lot more devices. But it's going to be interesting to see how they all stack up with the new iPad, which should come out sometime in 2011, probably somewhere between the first and second quarter.
But how did the Apple get it so right? Because Microsoft have been developing for the tablet PC for a decade, and just no one was interested. No one cared. What is it that Apple have got right that the competitors are going to have to emulate in order to take some of the market share that they've created almost from nothing?
Well, there were a couple of things. One is Apple really put in the cool factor onto the product, which no one else had till now. We've had tablets in our stores for years, but they were always very traditional, going after the business market type of thing. Secondly, it was the operating system. Apple came out with iOS 4 as an operating system, which it later rolled onto the iPhones as well. But with iOS, it was designed for the tablets. Microsoft has said Windows in its current state isn't designed for the tablets. Google have said Android isn't designed for the tablets until the next version of Android comes out. So they had the right operating system in place. And I think the third element was the apps. The apps were there. There was so much to do on the iPad that you're now actually talking about content distribution models changing. You're talking about newspapers now coming on there. Rupert Murdoch's taking it seriously. Richard Branson's taking it seriously. And it has changed the way we do things today as well.
What does all of this mean for the laptop and the netbook market then? I mean, is the tablet form taking a chunk of that market? Do you expect to see laptop and netbook prices come down further in 2011 to try and compete?
I don't think it's a head-on comparison. It complements the product. I don't think you necessarily do away with your laptop at this stage because the laptop is essentially product for content creation, as we talk about it, and the tablets have been content consumption when we look at it. Yes, a tablet does help a notebook user as a secondary device, but so does a netbook. I think you probably see a lot more competition with netbooks versus tablets than you do with them competing with a notebook head-on at this stage.
But it'd be quite expensive for people to have a notebook, a desktop, an iPad. I mean, people are at some point going to have to choose. They're going to be coming around to their next purchase decision, and they're going to say, well, what do I really use my notebook for? Do I do a lot of writing? Do I do a lot of content creation? Or do I mainly use it to surf the net? And there will be a significant number of people who use their notebook mainly for collecting their emails and for surfing, in which case they would be the prime market, and they will be a loss to the likes of Jacky's in terms of selling notebooks. Are there higher margins there? Is that something you're concerned about, that you'd be losing on an area where you have higher margins, or do you have higher margins on things like the iPads?
Well, I mean, for us, margins are secondary. It's in terms of having the right product for the customer at that time. And then margin structures keep changing, so nothing's ever static in our industry as we've seen it. But it's about shifting with the technology and then shifting with the curve. Tablets are going to be, in my belief, was before they even came out, when Apple had talked of the concept of the iPad, it's going to be a living room device as well. This is going to be the device that you're going to be downloading all your content on to watch on your TV screen one day, or control your home theater system because it is going to be a media center. We've heard the concept of the media center in the house for years, but it was never implemented. But something like the iPad looks like it could be the media center that we've all been dreaming of.
Ashish, unfortunately, we are going to have to let you go. We could sit here and talk about shiny gadgets all day. I know David particularly would have no problem with that. Ashish Panjabi, the COO of Jacky's, thank you so much for joining us this